you see somebody who's doing thought leadership really well online, you're like, I'm not that person, right? Like I
Right.
could never be that person.
Right.
But if you start with just like, okay, I'm going to set, a goal of doing, and you don't have to do TikTok. I'm not telling you to go and dance and, do anything silly, but, doing
There'll be no Gary dancing videos at
okay,
all,
darn
ever. So just everybody, you should rest assured you will never see a Gary dancing video. But please
I don't
proceed.
know.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer, Your Success. Today, we're diving into a fascinating intersection of personal branding, thought leadership, and career success. My guest is Kelly Schuknecht, the Chief Elevation Officer of 2 Mile High Marketing and the host of the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. Kelly is a seasoned marketing consultant, author coach, and personal branding expert who empowers professionals to share their voices, grow their influence, and achieve their goals. We're going to talk about how thought leadership can impact your career, job search, and overall professional trajectory. We're also going to touch on customer experience as it ties into personal success. And Kelly will also share her expertise on identifying your ideal audience, whether that's customers, employees, or employers, or readers. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gary. I'm super excited to be here and to talk to you about all things customer success and thought leadership.
You you are quite a busy person, Kelly. You do a lot. Why don't you tell us in your own words more about Kelly? Because that's a full plate you have.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I started my own marketing agency just about a month ago, so it's brand new. And I really just dove off the deep end into like I'm doing all the things right off the bat. So I started my podcast, like you mentioned, Beyond the Bestseller, which is all kind of networking with women, professional women who have written a book. So it all starts with a nonfiction book. We talk about their book and learn about the amazing things they're doing. They are all thought leaders in their space. And so I wanted to kind of elevate these women as I'm also building my business, which is thought leadership marketing and marketing strategy. So yeah, lots of amazing things going on, and already feeling that I am tapping into my ideal client because I've had just a lot of interest and a lot of people coming to me wanting to talk about how I can help them. So it's been fun so far, and I look forward to kind of where this journey is going to take me.
Wow, good for you. And congratulations on starting your business and best of luck. How so let's start kind of at the beginning. How did you come about realizing the importance of thought leadership and how it could help enhance someone's career?
Yeah, well, so I mentioned that I had just started my agency just in the last month. The reason that I decided to go into that thought leadership marketing kind of area is because that was what I was doing as a marketing person working in a company for somebody else, and I saw the power of thought leadership. So I was working with my boss at the time, and did all of the things thought leadership to help elevate his platform. So we wrote the book, the first book he published. That was kind of the starting point. He was going out doing speaking events. He was going and doing a lot of podcasts, things like that. Then I was turning all of those content, those recordings into content pieces. I could
Hmm.
take a podcast interview, turn that into an article, a blog post, a number of different social media posts, all of those things that we were doing that were really getting him noticed. And then we did the same approach to that with additional subject matter experts in the company. And when I decided to go out on my own, I thought about what I enjoyed and what I did well and what I saw working for these entrepreneurs, these business owners, and decided to create basically a company doing that because I believe in it and I saw the results of it. I wanted to do that with more CEOs and entrepreneurs and help elevate their kind of thought leadership platform in the space. So, I think what I saw with thought leadership, or what I see, is that when people really tap into what they're good at and what they are knowledgeable about, what they have the experience doing, we all tend to take that for granted, and we don't realize how unique and special our own experiences are.
Right.
And when people really start to tap into that and understand that, and start communicating that online and speaking engagements, whatever they're doing, they really stand out. Those people who are doing that well stand out online, and they start attracting the the people that want to work with them. It works. I've seen it work, and I love helping people get to that point where they think, I don't know if I have a book in me. I don't know what I would write about, or I don't know what I
Yeah.
would go and speak about, and helping them understand their unique, kind of their unique, special formula, and how they can get that out to the world.
And yeah, and this is a something that is rapidly being adopted kind of across the board that people really didn't think about doing previously, right? And I think a lot of people, hey, I go to work and do a great job, and that's going to be recognized, and I'll be good. But building your personal brand, as we heard in our first episode, Rick Denton talked about the importance of building your personal brand because he's out of the 10 companies he's worked for, 9 of them were merged. Bought
Hmm.
by somebody. And so he talked about that was a lesson he learned early about having to build your personal brand. So what would you say to somebody like who's new to this concept? Who's geez, I don't know, that's not really me. What's your words of wisdom for someone who how do you get started? I guess, right? How do you take that
Yeah,
first step?
yeah. I'll tell you from my own experience. I was an employee for 20 some years of my career, and now have gone out on my own. But the as an employee, I think I still always had that draw to, I had a side hustle. I was always kind of doing something on the side. I mean, a side hustle is probably the wrong term for it. It was more like a hobby, but I was always kind of working with authors on the side and doing my blog and doing these things. And I knew that to get more followers, to get more people that were engaging with what I was doing, I had to put myself out there. So it wasn't part of my job at the time at first. It was just me saying, okay, I want to figure out how to do this. I want to figure out how to work with people, how to, build my email list, how to build my social media following. So I just started doing it, and it felt so uncomfortable for me at first. I started doing TikTok videos. I started doing video book reviews and putting them on LinkedIn. And people would tell me, like, you just are such a natural at that. And I was like, no, I am not at all. I don't feel like a natural. It doesn't feel comfortable. And people would, also ask me, like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you putting, because it had nothing to do with my job. It had nothing to do with anything I was,
Hmm.
promoting. I was just forcing myself to put myself out there, and to get over my fear of it, to get over my maybe imposter syndrome around it, and just put myself out there. And the more I did that, the more I started to see that, people would start asking me questions, or they'd come to me, or they'd come to me about things that I was talking about, or they would, a lot of people just started associating me with books and saying, how do I write a book? And so then I would take that, and it would help me. I realized that people didn't know things about the things that I had a lot of experience with. I just took for granted. I thought everyone knew these things. So I started then being able to address people's questions, and then, develop more and more content from that. So, I think it, you see people, if you see somebody who's doing thought leadership really well online, you're like, I'm not that person, right? Like I
Right.
could never be that person.
Right.
But if you start with just like, okay, I'm going to set, a goal of doing, and you don't have to do TikTok. I'm not telling you to go and dance and, do anything silly, but, doing
There'll be no Gary dancing videos at
okay,
all
darn
ever.
it.
Just Everybody, you should rest assured you will never see a Gary dancing video. But please
I don't
proceed.
know. No, but whatever it is. So TikTok was my starting place, right? But like, even if it's just written content on LinkedIn, whatever, but just starting to get those things out of your head and realizing that I do have something to say and I do have a unique perspective on the world that I can share and that people can benefit from. And just
Mhm.
maybe, thinking through what those things are that you might be able to share and then just start putting out the content. I think that's the hardest piece is just like,
Yeah.
you started this podcast not too long ago and it's like doing it is the idea is easy. The execution is hard.
It was a great idea, and it has been a great idea, but it took me a while. That was part of the reason to hold me back. I be honest. Well, part of the reason is I didn't know what I was doing. Right, it took a while to figure out how to do this correctly
Yeah.
because I want to do it
Yeah.
right. I wanted it to sound right, and I wanted it produced right. And I use Riverside FM. I use this so that took a while to figure out. But part of it's
Yeah.
the same thing. I'm like, does anybody really going to want to hear what I have to say? And I said, well, you know what? I've got a unique perspective. It's pretty experienced, but
Absolutely.
the people I think I have in mind to bring on this podcast are pretty darn interesting. So it will benefit some folks. And it just took me a while to figure it out. But right, taking that first step was like, oh boy. So I started with actually golf videos. I do digital golf course design, so nerd alert. But again, it was something I had expertise in that I can help people with how to design these courses. And so that's how I started dipping my toes in the water. And then people started to find those valuable and thanking me for putting out the videos. So
Have you ever heard of the book I think it's called We're All Weird or
no.
Everyone is Weird? I think that's what it's called. Seth Godin. I could have the title wrong. Weird, something weird is in it, but he talks in that book about how like you just mentioned this, like this golf thing that people might go, what in the world are you doing? Right.
Yeah,
Books
right.
was always that for me. Like I was always an avid reader. I was always talking about books. I would do book reviews online and people would go like, what? There's my nerd alert, right? But it's what made me special and unique and something that I could share that people would actually engage with. They were interested in it. So your golf videos were kind of your thing that was like, okay, it's like my playground. I'm going to play around in this area and
Right.
just have fun with it and just enjoy my weirdness. And, some people are going to identify with that, right?
Hey, the golf course design world online is very competitive. These guys compete over who can make the best courses. So it's funny stuff. But let's get back to books and let's talk a little bit about the
Sure.
identifying your ideal audience because this is a customer experience and customer success podcast. And so I thought that was an interesting take on customer experience because we don't always think of customers as readers, right? But just like there's more to making a podcast than you think. There's got to be a whole lot more to a book than just putting out the book itself. Hey, I've got a book in me. Here it is. So, talk to us a little bit about identifying your ideal audience as it comes to writing a book, because I think that's fascinating and that's a very interesting and unique way to think of customer experience and who your customers are as readers.
Yeah. Well, your audience may be uh, employees doing the work. They may be contractors doing the work. They may be entrepreneurs. They may kind of run the gamut, right? But typically entrepreneurs want to write a book to speak to their target audience for who they want to attract as their clients, right? So they have this message, they're going out and speaking, they know their target audience really well because they know exactly that type of client that they want to bring in. So oftentimes they want to write a book for that purpose to attract them. For folks who maybe they don't own their own company but they're employees within a company or contractors, or maybe they're thinking about going on their own. I've worked with a lot of people like that also who kind of were like me a couple years ago, where it's like I have a job but I also have this side thing that I'm doing and I want to maybe write a book to speak to that audience, like that who I'm trying to attract. And maybe that's just a special message they have. They're not trying to sell anything, but they just want to get their message out to the world. I think that for anyone who is thinking about writing a book and kind of in that space where whether they're an entrepreneur, employee, whatever, but they have that message, I think that it's really important to understand, to identify at the very beginning who it is that you're trying to talk to, who your message is going to impact, and to make sure that you're speaking to that person as you're writing it. Because what can happen is, again, we forget how much knowledge and experience we have, and we talk to ourselves at this level, right? But that
Uh,
person that needs our help, it's like, what I take for granted, that people don't know the publishing process. I've been in it for 20 years, so I'm, when people ask me questions about, well, how do I order author copies after my book is published, how much is that going to cost me, or, I have the book written, what do I do next? I can tell them X, Y, and Z. Here's the
right.
next steps that you have, right? Without even thinking, it comes out of me, and I forget that not everyone knows that. So I have to back up and go, okay, this person without 20 years of experience in this industry, what do they need to know? Where, from start to finish, and talk to them at that stage of where they are, rather than, kind of losing them because I'm too high, high level, and they don't know what I'm talking about.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I
It-
think it's really important to really understand who your target audience is, and what they need to get from you, so that as you're writing, you're speaking to them where they are.
Right, so let's go back to who you're talking to. When you mentioned a persona, do you actually talk about building an actual persona? Because that's a CX term that when you're talking about customer experience, you build a persona of a potential customer. It could be a soccer mom that's 40 years old or some right something like that where it's athletic geared, right? So you actually build personas, right? And
Yeah.
so actually think about talking to a specific person or persona.
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely.
as opposed to
Hmm.
just kind of a general audience target market kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, so, very much a marketing term as well, or marketing idea as well, in my world, where if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're talking to everybody, you're going to attract nobody, because you're being too broad. And I've gone through that, like, iteration in my own kind of development of my company, when it was a hobby and I was just, talking to authors. It was all authors. Didn't matter if they were, fiction, nonfiction, what, didn't matter what type of book they had. It was just, I was just talking to authors. Remember when I said it was a hobby and not an
Hmm.
actual side hustle? Because I wasn't really making any money doing it. I was just playing around, right? When
Right.
I started understanding the people who could best use my service, my knowledge and experience and all of that, I started realizing that I needed to really tap into the nonfiction world, right? So people who are writing nonfiction books, who are they have a professional presence, they, have a message that they're very specific about who they're talking to, and they want to reach more of those people. So when I got more specific about the type of author I wanted to work with, things really blew up for me very fast, because I wasn't speaking to everyone. I was speaking specifically to the folks that I wanted to attract, and what I wanted in my network. And that makes all the difference. I don't know if that answers you, but, like,
Yeah.
I think that, like, we do tend to think we don't want to get too specific, because we don't want to exclude any possibilities, right? But what you
Yes.
end up doing is, you're too general, and you're not speaking to any one person. You're nobody is really, like, getting into your message, because it's, this day I'm talking about fiction, this day I'm talking about nonfiction, now I'm talking about children's books, now I'm talking about illustrators, whatever. You're all over the place. But when you start getting really specific, people start getting attracted to the message that they want to hear, and you can build your audience that way faster.
So understood completely because that's something I've thought about just this podcast, right? Because I don't want it too narrow, but I don't
Hmm.
want to do what you just said and be all over the place. So it's kind of interesting concept. So can you put it into a visual for us? Can you think of an example of someone that was a client or someone you work with that was struggling with this, finding this ideal audience and who to talk to, and how you solved that problem, led them kind of down the road to redefine who they're talking to, and it led to a successful outcome?
hmm Well, besides the example I gave you of myself, because I have gone
Yeah.
through this myself as well, I also had a client uh, we were working with that really like what he wanted to do was he was in the this comes up a lot in accounting. So I was in the accounting marketing world in my job. And, accountants can be, you can be an accountant, you can provide bookkeeping services, and kind of the newer wave of what they're doing is virtual CFO services, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, but if you're just talking about general accounting and tax and audit and things like that, you're not going to attract the person who is looking specifically for virtual CFO services. So we had one of our accountants, and I'll say he was an accountant. He was a partner in the firm. He wanted to become known as the person who works with law firms and provides virtual CFO services to law firms.
Mhm.
So we took that, like, okay, this is what you want, and we started refining his message. He needed to know how he was going to speak to that group of people. So we helped him understand his talking points to that group of people. Then we started basically we helped him write a book about financial metrics for law firms. So speaking directly to that target audience, but positioning himself at, we're talking about financial metrics. We're not talking about your bookkeeping. We're not talking about, your taxes. We're talking about the higher level financial piece of your company, of your firm, and what you need to know. Now, if you're interested in that, you may also want to hire a virtual CFO, right? Like, so that's where, we started being more direct to the audience and tailoring the content to that audience, and then also getting him speaking engagements, getting him podcast interviews, all of those things to help him reach that audience specifically. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to thought leadership. If you're writing a book because you have this topic, you want to reach people with it, you don't want to just write the book and be done. You want to find ways to get that book in the hands of the people who are going to benefit from it. So getting it those events, doing podcasts, that's a great way to
Hmm.
uh, inexpensive way to go on a book tour is to get on every podcast you can to talk about your book and talk about your message. And anyway, we saw great results with him. It didn't happen overnight, and it never will. If you're starting from ground zero with I want to be a thought leader in this particular thing, it's going to take a while, but we started developing that content, getting him those speaking engagements. And within a few months, then he started seeing those clients coming in. They started recognizing him as like,
Yeah.
oh, you're that guy on LinkedIn. You're that guy with that book, right? And they started knowing who he was because of all of that kind of foundational marketing work that we were doing.
Wow. Yeah. No, certainly. And I think we all see it. If you spend any amount of time on LinkedIn at all, you see it kind of all day, every day. But you see the benefits of that in just that the book's coming out, and you know these folks, and it's definitely a very unique and fun and interesting way to enhance your career and your business. So
Yeah.
um, it's good stuff, and it's very new to some folks, to be honest with you, right? Because like I said, it is a little uncomfortable to think of yourself in that way to start. So hopefully this, I mean, one of the goals of this whole conversation is to inspire some folks to get out there and do this, right? So this is one of the reasons we're
Yeah.
having this talk today. So that's very interesting stuff. Thank you. All right, Kelly. One thing we like to do here is a segment called "Does It Hold Water?" We've only done it once before, but this is basically where you are going to play our expert witness. We're going to see if the defense case holds water. I'm going to read you a quote from a thought leader,
Okay.
and you can agree, disagree. Does it hold water? Does it have some holes in it? What's going on here? So you have absolutely no idea what I'm going to ask you here, but it
Nope.
does fit right into your expertise. So you ready?
Okay. I'm
All right.
ready.
Your question is, this is a quote from Mark Schaefer, a marketing thought leader. Starting and being consistent and not giving up is more important than being brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Uh, yeah. So yeah, I think we think we have to be brilliant. We think we
Right.
have to be perfect. I My favorite quote is from Sheryl Sandberg: "Done is better than perfect," and that's what I encourage people to start doing the thing. Whether it's writing the book, putting out the content, doing videos, dancing on TikTok, Gary, I'm going to get you to do it. Whatever that thing is.
No, you will not. I don't
But
think
done is
TikTok will even want that. TikTok will even say take down that video.
anyways, done is better than perfect, right? Like, start doing it and you get better over time. You even know this with the podcast.
Right, right.
I felt this way when I launched my podcast. I was like so critical of every question I asked and everything, everything I was doing. But I just told myself I had to let it go. Done is better than perfect. Start getting it out there. And eventually I will look like the brilliant podcast host that I hope to become. And right now I'm getting there, right? So that consistency is what's going to help me get there eventually. Right now, I may feel like, that imposter syndrome. I may feel that fear of doing it, and I'm saying me. I mean, I've done all of this, but like if somebody is thinking about writing that book or thinking about putting out that content and they have that fear, just start doing it and just start being consistent and set a goal for yourself of how often, how you're going to approach that, whatever that is, and just start doing it. And when you start showing up every day, people start to notice, and it will take off.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And that's the kind of the point I wanted to get across. And even with my silly golf videos, the same thing. I just started doing it. They weren't great, but I had to figure out how I was going to do it, who I was talking to, just
Yep.
that audience. Who am I talking to? And to me, what wound up happening is I'm talking to newer designers who don't know how to use the tool in the game, which is a little confusing, and it's kind of taken off. Yeah, but same thing here, right? So it's just you got to get out there and do it. And I think people, and this is why it took me until now to get this podcast. I needed. I'm like, this had to be perfect and brilliant, and I got to say stuff and have guests that are super insightful rather than just get out there and make a difference and say some interesting stuff, and it will happen. And it took me a
Yeah.
while, like So Stacy Sherman, who I hope to have on the show soon, she said, she bought her microphone and sat in a box for whatever 6 months or 8 months, and she says, take the microphone out of the box. For
Yep.
me, I took the microphone out of the box in 5 minutes. Just took me 8 months to order the damn thing. So get out there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's
Absolutely.
the moral of that story. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna turn to what I call chip chat, some more simple questions. Again, they're professionally related, but they're a little bit more. Tell us more about you, about Kelly. So
Okay.
the first question I have for you now, geez, this is a real stretch for you. what what's one? And I've asked this other guest. What's one book that you can point to that's impacted your personal or professional life?
Yeah. Okay. So, how much time do we have left? Because I could, I
Yeah,
could
I know.
probably tell you,
Just one,
keep you all day.
not a
Okay. All
hundred.
right. Just one. Okay. Um, I would say, my first reaction to that is the book "Getting Things Done" by David Allen.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but it's
Not at all.
all that. Okay, so that book is about basically prioritizing your workload and how to get all of those things that are in your mind. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then you have sticky notes on your desk, and you have your inbox of things. You have all those different things that that cause us stress and anxiety, because it's like you don't feel like you're in control of all of those things.
Oh yeah.
And he teaches you the getting things done method, which helps you keep all of those things in control, so you know exactly what you need to be doing, when you need to be doing it, and it relieves that anxiety around all of that. I started practicing the getting things done method probably 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm a pretty like productive on top of things person, but it's a game changer as far as organizing all of the things in your life and having a system to just manage all of that and keep it in control. So for me, both personal and work, it was how I
Both.
just
Yeah.
keep everything together.
Oh, that's interesting. I got to look at it because yeah, that's something we definitely struggle with between the two kids, and we got two. We don't have three or five or just between the games of this, my wife's job, work, commutes, traffic, it's just, oh my gosh, all over the place. That's an interesting
Yeah.
one. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yep. I love it.
Um, yeah. So actually, since I got to shift the questions around, since you brought that book up as the topic, I'll shift to the next question, which is, what's the one habit or routine you've cultivated that helps you and or contributes to your personal or professional success? So I'd assume that kind of dovetails nicely into that
Well, yes. So getting things done
book.
is one, but I will also tell you that the other practice that I love is Miracle Morning. Are you familiar with that one?
Nope.
Okay. So not to scare you, but it's to get up early in the morning. I don't know if you're a morning person.
Oh, I get up too early.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, there
I
you go.
flipped.
So
I've done a 180 since we had kids. Yep.
yeah. So he doesn't say a specific time. He just says getting up like an hour before you would normally.
Hmm.
What I do is I try to get up at 5 a.m. And he has 6 things, I think it is. So it's savers, it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scripting, which is like journaling basically.
Yep. Yep.
So the idea is you get up in the morning, you touch on those 6 things. So you do each of those things, and it helps you set the tone for your day. Again, like the scripting, you can do like bullet journaling, or however you want to kind of organize that. He talks about all in it's also a book, Miracle Morning. So in
Hmm.
the book, he also talks about different ways that you can approach those things. And but anyways, I that is a practice that when I do it, and I'm not consistent, I'm not great at doing it every single morning. For
Hmm.
example, I slept in a little bit this morning, but when I am consistent and do it, I know that my day goes better because I started with all of those things that I need to do first thing in the morning to kick off my day on a good foot.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty good. Um, yeah, I am up early and I do kind of ease the day, but I do same a bunch of those kind of things. I kind of get organized a little bit in my head. Exercise, walk, or gym, and get going, and just kind of set the tone for the day and
Yep.
get moving. So I am up. So I'm no kidding. I'm not kidding. I was up at 4 today.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, it's
I
a stretch getting up at 5, but
I
good for you.
just I was up and I said I've got this. I've got a whole bunch of things to do today, and everything's good today. I was excited to get up, and I had to edit a podcast and get some thought leadership posts out on LinkedIn and do all the stuff
Nice,
and get
nice.
ready. So we're gonna have a relaxing evening today when we're done with everything for sure in this household. All right, so let's wrap this up with one final question. Let's inspire the prospective thought leaders out there with one piece of advice, the best thought leadership advice you've received that could help somebody get going. Give it to us. Let's inspire some folks to get out there and start doing this. What's the one
Well,
piece? Go ahead.
I think we covered it in this podcast,
I think
actually.
we
I
did
think that,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, I think the one piece of advice that I learned from the experience of working with multiple entrepreneurs in thought leadership, and also just from, my own experience, I think it's just start, right? Like
Just go. Yeah.
just start. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Start figuring out what those things are that you want to share with people. Start sharing it, and it will start to come together and evolve over time. But just start.
Yeah. No, I agreed. I think we hit it. And these. So if you haven't listened to my podcast before, I have some set questions, and so I was set to ask them. And well, heck, the 30 minutes before I asked them, we actually covered it. So awesome. So great job, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can folks find you? You are quite a busy person, like we said at the beginning. Where's the best spot or spots plural for folks to find you?
Yeah, so I think probably LinkedIn would be a great place to start.
Hmm.
Connecting with me on LinkedIn if you're interested in just engaging with me there. Uh, I'm sure Gary can put in the show notes
Oh, there will be.
the link, because I'm not going to try to spell my name for you. It's a challenging one. Also, I'm at kellyschuknecht.com. Also, Gary can put that in the show notes because that's also hard to spell. And then 2milehighmarketing.com. Any of those places, you can learn more about what I do and engage with me on LinkedIn. I love to start conversations there and meet new people.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here today. Thank you all for listening. We will be back real soon with some more customer experience, folks. I have some customer success management guests lined up for you as well. And we're going to try to do some job search, career coaching advice for you too on future episodes. So there's more to come. And this went well. And I'm so happy we had a chance to talk today, Kelly.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks all. Bye for now. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to marracxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Marra, working hard for your customer and your success.